What would you think if I told you that the most potent form of female power isn't found in what she overtly does, but in the unseen forces she unleashes within the masculine psyche? It's not about manipulation or calculated strategy, but a profound, almost spiritual resonance that touches the deepest, most primal parts of a man. This isn't merely about attraction, it's about a fundamental shifting of the psychological landscape when a woman truly embodies her authentic self, her spiritual sovereignty. Today, we journey into the hidden architecture of the male unconscious, exploring the 13 shadows she casts, those profound psychological imprints that awaken his forbidden desire, not just for her, but for a part of himself he has long denied. This is the realm where Carl Jung's insights into the anima and shadow archetypes intertwine with the raw, unspoken truths of human connection. Consider for a moment the concept of the anima, Jung's term for the unconscious feminine aspect within the male psyche. It is the bridge to his emotions, his creativity, his intuition. When a woman stands in her authentic power, rooted in self-worth and untethered by the need for external validation, she doesn't just attract, she activates this anima. She becomes a living mirror, reflecting back to him not just her own light, but the hidden depths of his own emotional landscape. This can be exhilarating, terrifying, and profoundly magnetic. Her independence, her quiet confidence, her refusal to be defined by his gaze, these are not barriers, but rather invitations to a deeper, more challenging engagement. He experiences a pull, a desire that transcends superficial attraction, because he senses in her a gateway to his own inner world, a world he may have consciously or unconsciously suppressed. One of the most potent shadows she casts is the shadow of his unmet longing. This isn't just about a romantic void, it's the unacknowledged yearning for emotional depth, for connection that pierces through the superficiality of modern life. When a woman exhibits a profound inner peace, a self-sufficiency that doesn't scream for attention but quietly is, she casts a shadow over his own restlessness. He might project onto her the very qualities he lacks or denies within himself: emotional resilience, spiritual groundedness, and intuitive understanding of life beyond the purely logical. This creates a powerful, almost aching desire because she represents the integration he unknowingly seeks. He feels a magnetic pull towards her, a desperate, often unconscious need to reconcile these fragmented parts of himself through her presence. Then there is the shadow of his control. Many men operate from a place of desiring control over their environment, their emotions, and often their relationships. When a woman stands in her complete autonomy, unswayed by his attempts to define or direct her, she casts a shadow on his need for dominance. This isn't defiance, it's a calm, unwavering self-possession. He finds himself in an unfamiliar territory where his usual tactics fall flat. This can be incredibly frustrating for him, even infuriating, but beneath that frustration lies a profound fascination. He becomes intrigued, perhaps even obsessed, by her unyielding spirit. Her refusal to be controlled paradoxically makes her even more desirable, because she embodies a freedom he secretly yearns for, but might be too afraid to embrace himself. This challenge to his ego structure can be a catalyst for immense internal growth, forcing him to confront his own need for power and perhaps discover a more authentic form of connection. The Stoics understood this. True power comes from within, from the mastery of self, not the domination of others. When a woman embodies this, she holds a kind of sacred power that disarms and yet captivates. Another profound imprint is the shadow of his unexpressed vulnerability. In a world that often demands stoicism from men, the space for genuine emotional expression can be limited. When a woman radiates an authentic emotional wisdom, not fragility, but a deep understanding of the human heart, she casts a shadow over his suppressed feelings. She becomes a safe harbor, not because she demands her vulnerability, but because her own authenticity creates an unspoken permission for his. He may find himself wanting to reveal parts of himself he's kept hidden, perhaps even for a lifetime. This isn't about her fixing him, it's about her very presence creating an environment where his own emotional truths can begin to surface. This pull towards intimacy can be deeply unsettling, yet powerfully alluring. He might resist it fiercely because vulnerability can feel weakness, but the unconscious drive towards wholeness, guided by her presence, is a force that cannot be easily denied. She also casts the shadow of his unlived potential. Every man carries an archetypal yearning for self-actualization, for becoming the fullest expression of himself. When a woman lives authentically, pursuing her passions and embodying her purpose with conviction, she casts a shadow on her own unrealized dreams. She becomes a living embodiment of what it means to truly live, not just exist. This isn't about competition, it's about inspiration. Her journey silently challenges him to confront his own fears, his procrastination, his own resistance to stepping into his greatness. He finds himself drawn to her because she represents the courage he needs to embody. This desire is intertwined with aspiration, a longing not just to possess her, but to become more like the man he envisions himself to be. It's a desire fueled by both attraction and a profound, often unconscious need for personal evolution. She also casts the shadow of his solitude. In a world that often emphasizes constant external stimulation and social connection, a woman who is comfortable in her own company, who genuinely enjoys her quiet moments and cultivates a rich inner life, casts a powerful shadow over a man's potential loneliness or his fear of being alone. This isn't about being aloof, it's about being complete within herself. He observes her self-sufficiency, and it ignites a peculiar blend of admiration and disquiet within him. He might feel a longing for that same sense of peace, that same internal resourcefulness. Her solitude is not an empty space, but a full, vibrant realm, and he unconsciously desires to share in that richness, or perhaps to discover it within himself. This magnetic pull is rooted in a fundamental human need for authentic connection, and her self-contained nature highlights any deficits in his own ability to find contentment within. He sees in her not a void, but a profound presence, a silent challenge to his own need for external validation or constant company. Consider the shadow of his unconscious projections. According to Jung, the anima is often projected onto women in a man's life. When a woman embodies qualities that align with his idealized unconscious feminine, but also challenges him with her authentic imperfections and complex depths, she forces a confrontation with these projections. He might initially see her as the embodiment of all his desires, the perfect woman, but as her true self emerges, transcending his fantasy, she casts a shadow over his idealized notions. This can be jarring, even painful, as his ego resists the dismantling of its carefully constructed illusions. Yet, this very friction is what makes her so captivating. She invites him, often unwillingly, into a process of individuation, forcing him to differentiate between his internal archetypes and the reality of an independent, autonomous woman. This journey, though fraught with discomfort, is ultimately a path to greater self-awareness and a more mature understanding of love and relationship. His profound wisdom and quiet strength casts a shadow over his unaddressed pain. Her presence, her very being, without demanding or forcing, can create a space where these old wounds begin to stir. This is not about her becoming his therapist, but about her embodying a kind of emotional integrity that exposes the fragmentation within him. He might experience an intense, sometimes overwhelming urge to confess, to unpack, to finally confront what he has long suppressed. This desire is forbidden because it pushes against societal norms of masculine stoicism, demanding a vulnerability he has been taught to avoid. Yet, the magnetic pull towards healing, towards integration, becomes almost irresistible. Her mere existence becomes a catalyst for his own shadow work, forcing him to confront the aspects of himself he has disowned or buried deep. This painful yet necessary confrontation is part of the individuating process Jung spoke of, a stripping away of the inauthentic to reveal the true self. Another potent shadow she casts is the shadow of his unacknowledged feminine wisdom. Many men are disconnected from their intuition, their creative flow, and their capacity for deep emotional understanding, often viewing these as feminine traits to be suppressed. When a woman deeply embodies her own intuitive wisdom, trusting her gut feelings and operating from a place of inner knowing, she casts a shadow over his logical, purely rational approach to life. He might feel a strange disorientation, a sense that there are truths beyond his intellectual grasp that she effortlessly accesses. This creates a yearning, a desire to reconnect with his own intuitive capacities, perhaps through her guidance or simply by observing her. Her presence becomes a silent teacher, inviting him to explore the richness of his own internal landscape, to acknowledge and integrate the anima within himself. This is a forbidden desire because it challenges his preconceived notions of masculinity, pushing him towards a more holistic and balanced existence. Then there is the shadow of his need for external validation. In a society that often conditions men to seek affirmation, status, or the approval of others, a woman who is genuinely self-contained, deriving her worth from within, casts a powerful shadow over this pervasive need. Her inner peace, her quiet confidence that doesn't require applause or recognition, highlights her own striving for external accolades. He observes her and feels a profound, almost uncomfortable admiration. Her lack of neediness is not indifference, it is a profound self-respect that signals high self-worth. This can be unsettling for him because his usual methods of engagement, offering praise, seeking approval, trying to win her over, may simply bounce off his inner resilience. This resistance paradoxically deepens his fascination. He desires to understand the source of her unshakable calm, hoping to discover it within himself. Seneca often wrote about freedom from external attachments. When a woman embodies this, she becomes a living testament to an inner liberty that men instinctively recognize and desire. She also casts the shadow of his unexamined regrets. Life is full of choices, and often men carry unspoken regrets, missed opportunities, unresolved conflicts, relationships left unfulfilled. When a woman lives with integrity, making choices aligned with her deepest values and embracing her journey, even its imperfections, she casts a shadow over his own past decisions. Her presence can act as a catalyst, bringing to the surface old feelings of remorse or paths not taken. This isn't about her judging him, it's about her authentic existence illuminating his own internal landscape. He might feel a strong, almost overwhelming urge to confide in her, to seek understanding or even absolution. This forbidden desire is rooted in the human need for forgiveness and closure, and she, by her very nature, offers a metaphorical space for that healing to begin. He is drawn to her not just for her current self, but for the potential she awakens within him to confront and reconcile with his past. Furthermore, she casts the shadow of his superficiality. In a world that often prioritizes appearances, material possessions, and fleeting pleasures, a woman who embodies depth, substance, and a spiritual connection to life casts a profound shadow over any shallowness within him. Her interests extend beyond the mundane, her conversations are meaningful, her values are rooted in something enduring. He might find his usual conversational gambits or attempts at impressing her fall flat. This isn't a deliberate rejection, but simply a mismatch in vibrational frequency. He becomes aware of the limitations of his own superficial engagements and feels a strong, almost desperate pull towards her depth. He desires to connect on a soul level, to explore the deeper mysteries of existence, and she, by her very presence, becomes a guide to this richer internal world. This forbidden desire is a yearning for true substance, for a life lived with meaning beyond the ephemeral. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of inner virtue and living in accordance with nature.
A woman embodying this virtue radiates an energy that cannot be faked or ignored. This profound journey continues as she casts the shadow of his unconquered fears. Every man harbors anxieties, unspoken terrors, of failure, of inadequacy, of genuine intimacy, of the unknown. When a woman stands in her authentic power, demonstrating courage not as an absence of fear, but as the willingness to face it, she casts a vivid shadow over his own trepidations. She might pursue her passions with audacious spirit or stand firm in her convictions despite external pressure. Her unwavering resolve highlights his own moments of hesitation, his retreat from challenges. This creates a fascinating dynamic. He is simultaneously drawn to her strength and unsettled by the mirror she holds up to his own vulnerabilities. This forbidden desire is a yearning for the very courage she embodies, a desperate wish to transcend his own limitations. He feels compelled to confront these fears, not just for her approval, but because her example implicitly demands his own growth. Epictetus taught that we control our reactions, not external events. A woman who lives by this principle inspires a man to internalize his own power. She also projects the shadow of his need for validation through her desire. Many men are conditioned to believe their worth is inextricably linked to a woman's attraction or approval. When a woman operates from a place of deep self-worth, her desire for him is a genuine choice, not a necessity. She doesn't need him to complete her, she chooses him because he aligns with her authentic self. This fundamental shift casts a powerful shadow over his subconscious need for her validation. His usual tactics to elicit desire, proving himself, performing, even manipulating, may become irrelevant. Her attraction, when given, is a profound gift, earned not by external displays, but by his genuine resonance with her. This can be deeply unsettling for his ego, as it forces him to seek validation from within, rather than relying on her gaze. This forbidden desire is the yearning for her genuine, uncoerced choice, a desire so potent precisely because it cannot be forced or manipulated. It demands he show up as his true, unvarnished self.
Furthermore, she illuminates the shadow of his unintegrated aggression. While often seen as a purely masculine trait, aggression, when unexamined, can manifest as control, anger, or passive resistance. When a woman embodies a calm yet fierce inner strength, a power that is not aggressive but assertive, not dominating but sovereign, she casts a shadow over his own unintegrated aggression. Her boundaries are clear, her no is unequivocal, and her presence commands respect without resorting to force. This can challenge his instinct to exert control or dominate, forcing him to find healthier, more integrated expressions of his masculine power. He learns, perhaps for the first time, that true strength lies not in physical or emotional force, but in self-mastery and respectful assertion. This forbidden desire is a longing for a balanced and mature expression of his own power, free from destructive impulses, guided by her example of contained strength. Then there is the shadow of his disconnection from nature and the primal. Modern life often pulls men away from their primal instincts, their connection to the earth, and the raw, untamed aspects of existence. When a woman embodies a deep connection to nature, to her own body's wisdom, and to the cyclical rhythms of life, she casts a profound shadow over his own estrangement from these fundamental forces. She might possess an earthy sensuality, an intuitive understanding of natural processes, or a profound appreciation for the wild. This awakens within him a forgotten yearning, a desire to reconnect with his own primal self, to feel the grounding force of nature. This forbidden desire is not merely sexual attraction, though it can manifest that way, but a deeper, archetypal pull towards wholeness, towards integrating his instinctual self with his conscious awareness. He sees in her a gateway to a more authentic, less domesticated existence. Finally, she projects the shadow of his fear of true devotion. For many men, devotion can feel like a loss of freedom, a trap. When a woman demonstrates an unwavering loyalty to her own values, her own path, and to those she truly chooses, without clinging or neediness, she casts a shadow over his aversion to deep commitment. Her devotion is a conscious choice, freely given and deeply rooted. This paradoxically makes her devotion incredibly appealing. He recognizes that her commitment, when offered, would be genuine and powerful, born not from obligation but from sovereign choice. This forbidden desire is for a devotion so profound it feels both terrifying and liberating, demanding his full presence and his ultimate commitment, not to her control, but to the co-creation of a shared, deeply authentic life. He longs for the security and depth that her embodied devotion represents, a devotion that honors both individual freedom and profound connection. The woman who walks this path, who embraces her own sovereignty and allows these deep psychological currents to flow through her, needs no external validation. Her power is intrinsic, her presence a magnetic force that rearranges the landscape of the masculine psyche. She does not chase, she simply is. And in her being, she calls forth the best and sometimes the most terrifying aspects of the male soul. The journey towards her is a journey towards his own individuation, a perilous but ultimately liberating path. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.